You know what, Rad? You're right. I forgot to update the day. We're in double digits. It's day 10. Update. Yeah, that whole counting thing is tough for me. That's why I do stuff with words. Let me change it here. Your name is literally a number. Yeah, but it's spelt out with words. Haha, gotcha. Okay. Um, your picture is numbers. Yes. Yeah, it is. Because it's a visual representation of my name, which is numbers, which is letters, which is words. It's something. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Let's start our movie game. I think my brain might be fried, so it is going to be an interesting one. One would assume you'd be able to count to at least 54. Yes. Yes, I can. I might count certain numbers twice, though. Alright, let's start it. 10 minutes. Ready, set, go. Ooh, you got a bit of a longer name, but we have two. I'm guessing this is. Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson. Because the movie was Unbreakable. The first one, The Avengers, so it's going to be Robert Downey Jr. Alright, good start. We got two right away. Oscar winner in 2000. I'm going to skip that one for now. Watchmen 2009. Could this be... Yeah, I think it's Patrick Wilson. He played Night Owl 2. The fighter, because it has three letters in the last name, I'm pretty sure it's Melissa Leo. Leo is her last name. Pretty sure I know what. Yeah, I was actually gonna guess Portman. Yeah, it's too short for Portman, so it might be Dormer. We'll keep going through them. Another one from Watchmen 2009. So it's not Jeffrey Dean Morgan or Jackie Earle Haley. Who else was in that? It's not Patrick Wilson because the number of letters isn't correct. What's her name that played Silk Spectre? Well, if we think it's Natalie, then that would be an I. Can't I think of her name? It's... I'll come back to that one. Spider-Man No Way Home. A triple name. I'm gonna guess Thomas. Hayden. Oh, no. It's not gonna be... Oh, I guess it... If it's that, no Y in it. Zendaya. If it's one... If it's... I think we've had her as a clue before. Alright. Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. I don't remember which one that is. Yeah, I think you're right, because it is most likely Orlando Bloom. I saw it before you typed it in, so I don't know if you got it before I did, but we both got there. Jurassic Park, 1993. Delay, so same time. Fair. So Jurassic Park would be not Samuel L. Jackson, not Sam Neill. Laura Dern? Yeah, that fits. Star Wars The Last Jedi, 2017. So last letter of the first name is an M. I'm not sure. Major! Hi, hello, welcome in. How you doing today? Oof. You're alright? How am I? Doing alright. Got to work from home, so I can't really complain, but I was playing Rivals all day and it was brutal. That is correct. Major is always right. Nocturnal animals. It's been a long time since I've seen that. Because it has Amy Adams in it. I want to say Jake Gyllenhaal. Armie Hammer, unfortunately. I can't think of who else off the top of my head. And then the Green Knight. The only person I know in that movie is Dev Patel, and that doesn't quite fit, so. But I think Rad was correct in his guess for the final answer, so we'll fill that in and see what we missed. Okay, so we had Michael Caine for winning an Oscar in 2000. For Watchmen, it was Billy Crudup who did the voice in motion capture for Dr. Manhattan. So I was wrong in who I was thinking about anyway. Oscar winner in 1995, we have Tom Hanks. Would that have been for Forrest Gump? Or Philadelphia? Star Wars, yeah, Adam Driver. I didn't think of that. I was thinking of all of like the good guys in the movie. Nocturnal Animals, Michael Sheen. All right, I'll believe you. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've seen that movie. I saw it in theaters and did not care for it, so have not revisited it. And then Green Knight, Joel Edgerton. Like I said, haven't seen it, I just know Dev Patel's the lead in it. Joel Edgerton was actually the lead actor in my favorite movie from last year, 2025. But we got a majority of them right, and Rad helped us, or guess correctly, for the final answer. So keeping the streak alive, we're 10 for 10 on day 10, which it is day 10 of our writing streams, not day 9, because that's what the title says. You can't prove otherwise. Alright, we're gonna switch over. Welcome to not day 9 of Let's Write a Screenplay. Correct. Woot woot, Major on a 10 stream streak. She's been here for all of them. Way to go, Major. I appreciate you. So, last time on Sunday, I was kind of in the mode of, I don't know what like a big chunk of our movie is going to be, and I still don't know what that large chunk of the movie is going to be. So we're going to try to figure some stuff out with that. My mind has been more focused on the other thing I'm writing for myself, because I'm getting to writing like the climax and having to explain and wrap a lot of uh, story threads up in together. So I've been more focused on that, admittedly. But we're going to keep working on this and, yeah, figure out what we know, where, because there are certain places that the story has to go, right? And so we know how it started, we know where we're going to, kind of. So we just need to fill in that middle section. I don't even remember what we did last time. Yeah, last time we went through and I had to rewrite a sequence in the outline. And then we started to lay some stuff out for structurally what will happen next. Which is part of this. So after, there's going to be a near miss at the Dianic Witch's outpost, where Helene, they find out she's being tracked, so they send her away. So she leaves there right before Margaret shows up. And then we want to show her in San Francisco, or wherever we decide for her to go next. And then we'll come back to the scene with Margaret of after she had her part of her mind erased. and seeing Helene in the newspaper and going back to San Francisco. But that all has to end poorly because that's not where the movie ends. So I have thought about following that. There's going to be 2 more sets of sequences that we're going to follow the characters through, or 2 more time periods. I think one of them is going to be between the 40s and 70s. I'm not sure exactly when in that time frame rather, but the next time they cross paths will be in that time frame, and then the last sequence, I think we catch up with them more or less present day. And that's where a lot of the stuff we wrote out for what I imagine things late in the movie to be. So, Major, I know you had other stuff going on Sunday, but I kind of wrote out some of the things that I see happening near the end of the movie. So we're going to have a false ending, which I need to flesh out a bit more. For right now, the idea I have for a climax is going to be that the hunters have captured the Dianic witches, and they've found a way to drain the witches' auras, so they basically lose all their magic. And somehow Margaret takes all the drained aura and use it to cast a spell to defeat the hunters. And then part of the climax we need to have, and I still need to obviously figure out a lot of like exactly how the order in which a lot of this stuff is going to happen and how we're going to get certain characters to where they need to be. But we need Helene to talk to Bryn because Bryn is a seer. She knows things that Helene does not, and she reveals to her that she didn't save herself in that first scene, but there was a greater magic at work that involved Helene and Margaret. And then one of the last scenes, if not the last scene, is going to be Helene and Margaret after they've reconciled. One thing that I think Vidsy suggested it way back when we were trying to figure out which story we wanted to do, or when we were just kind of talking out ideas for it, that Margaret's changed her face so much through the years that she's forgotten what she originally looked like. But Helene, having known her then, still remembers, and being a witch, she's able to change her face back to what it first was. So I think that is the ending, the resolution that I'm aiming for, at least at this point. How we get there, that's a whole nother question. So, where do we go? I do not know. When I don't know, I like to go back to the notes we've taken and see if there's something we haven't explored yet, so we can follow up with that. And okay. So we have our Dianic types of witches. Okay, yeah, we already did that stuff, so we can cross it out. And then all our other notes, which we already used. So I think this is something we need to mine more. The use of witchcraft in different cultures as they immigrate to America. Right, because if this is going to be an allegory for immigrants and immigrant stories, we need to have witches and different types of witchcraft. Yeah, yeah. Which also ties into our San Francisco bit. So we'll start with that because I think we have a little bit more we know about that. Asian witchcraft. Asian witchcraft encompasses various types of witchcraft practices across Asia. In ancient times, magic played a significant role in societies such as ancient Egypt and Babylonia. Okay, in South Asia, there is continued witch hunting and abuse of women accused of witchcraft in countries like India and Nepal. Boo. These deeply entrenched superstitions have perpetuated acts of violence and marginalization against those accused of witchcraft, underlying the urgent need for legal reforms, human rights protection. Yeah. Alright, in Chinese culture, the practice of Gong Tao involves black magic for purposes such as revenge and personal gain. Japanese folklore features witch figures who employ foxes as familiars. Korean history includes instances of individuals being condemned for using spells. The Philippines has its own tradition of witches, distinct from Western portrayals, with their practices often countered by indigenous shamans. Okay, the one that sounded interesting to me was Japan. In Japanese folklore, the witch can commonly be separated into two categories: those who employ snakes as familiars and those who employ foxes. Fox witch is by far the most commonly seen witch figure in Japan. Differing regional beliefs that those use foxes in two separate types: the Kitsune Mochi and the Tsukomi Suji. First of these is a solitary figure by bribing it with its favorite foods. Then they strike a deal with the fox, typically promising food, daily care in return for the fox's magical service. So, shape-changing, possession, and illusion. Alright, let's check. China, 91 BCE, during the reign of Emperor Wu of Han. In the Western Han Dynasty of China, members of the imperial court carried out a witch hunt with the help of shamans. Someone who's suspected of having been attacked by black magic and believed to be fusion poison skill, which were in... What? Okay. So that did not help a lot, because that is more... different than I was expecting. Let's see. So for Vietnam, witchcraft in Vietnam is a diverse and culturally rich practice, deeply entwined with the country's traditional beliefs in indigenous spirituality. Encompass the rituals of divination, healing, and protection. Emphasize connections with spirits and deities. Okay, yeah, that's a lot closer to what we think of in terms of like Western witchcraft, right? But I am still leaning towards Japan with using the fox, the kitsune, and yeah, I think there could be something interesting there. Because we could have something like, because it seems like the fox is more of the magical one, that if the people were in danger, the fox could set out on its own to try to get Helene somehow to help the people. I don't know, I think that's there's something there. Okay, that's what I wanted. Let's add that into our notes. So the main thing is the fox familiar. So, okay, yeah. Sage! Hi, hello, welcome in. How you doing? Oh, I guess Rad doesn't get a shout out. My guess is the shout out command just has some sort of internal cooldown on it. Alright, so we did decide for the San Francisco sequence because of when photograph and kind of photographic print was used, or photographic methods were used in newsprint, is going to be more in the late 1800s. I also want to look up when did San Francisco become a city? Okay, it was officially renamed San Francisco and incorporated as a city on January 30, 1847. And it expanded quickly following 1948 or 1848 gold rush. The other thing I was throwing around was uh, there was a major earthquake that hit San Francisco in, I believe, 1901. But I don't know if that's worth including or setting anything around with, because I couldn't draw a line between our story and having a major earthquake that would make sense. So I don't know that we need to use it, but I know that's one of the significant things that happened around the time we're thinking, because we're in, late 1800s, possibly early 1900s for this. So we have Helene in San Francisco. Was sent by Serafina. So, when did Japanese immigrants immigrate to? Let's make sure our timeline's right. First Japanese immigrants arrived at San Francisco Bay in 1869. The San Francisco earthquake was in 1906, not 1901. My mistake. After the earthquake, San Francisco... Okay, so... this gives us more information. So, we're going to have post 1869, post 1848, I believe. So it just pushes it probably... so post 1870, we'll say. So we'll have Helene in San Francisco. She was sent by Serafina after hearing of the treatment of Asian immigrant witches. Saying the Kitsune Mochi. Alright, so she was sent there by Serafina to help them. So at this point, the Dianic witches have been expanding their numbers, recruiting disparate witches, and now, because of the point in time that we're at, you know, we have a lot of Western expansion from the colonialists in America westward, and we also have immigrants coming in from everywhere. So as they expand, they want to help other witches. I'll write that as kind of an aside. Right, because initially when Helene was sent to meet with the Native American tribe, the goal Serafina had in mind was kind of not necessarily integrating all the witches together, but having them have each other's back, so to speak. So there would be alliances, and I think that's what she's gotten back to now that their own group has been bolstered enough to stand kind of on its own and stand up, at least not be in constant hiding in fear of the hunters. Okay. Do they call it San Francisco's Chinatown, south of Market neighborhood? But it has no luck. Sure, we'll add that in there. Actually, give me a minute. I'm gonna step away, take a quick break. We're a little under an hour in, but we can start our words on stream, and Major can decide to either carry chat or let someone else win. So I'm gonna start it up. Y'all have fun, and yeah, I will be right back. New round, ready, go. I should probably look at the list of words before I start typing stuff. Well done, everyone. Let's see. Rad's at 70 points, Major's at 68. One of you needed to be a point higher or a point lower. JK. Good job, everyone. Doing amazing. Yeah, Major graciously letting Rad win. Major needs one less point for, that other number. That less cool number. Yeah, that's what I was saying, Major. You need one more point, or Rad needs one less point. One fewer. Yeah, one less. Alright. Back to San Francisco in post 1870. We got Helene in San Francisco being sent by Serafina. Alright. Yeah, this works. This clicked something in my head. Okay, good. Yeah. So, well, bad, but good. So, we're going to have Serafina hear about the treatment of Asian immigrant witches. They're being rounded up by the hunters, which is, what's happening to immigrants currently in America. So, ties directly into that allegory. But what she doesn't know is why they're being rounded up and not just executed as they had been previously. So that's why she's sent by Seraphina. So this can tie in, start laying the groundwork for some stuff at the end about the hunters are trying new ways of dealing with witches. So that's something we'll come back to in the different time periods of what the hunters are trying to do. So when we get to the end and they're trying to drain the witches of their abilities, it'll hopefully track with what we've set up. So Helene's searching for a group. Helene searches has been taken by the hunters. Through the South Market neighborhood, but has no luck. So then so we will say unsuccessful that night. Helene goes to shore of the bay. To eat or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Then, so while she's eating, a fox approaches her. Helene senses this isn't a normal fox. She can sense its aura. But she still finds this unusual. Because I feel like at this point, for witches in magic if it were real. Like, witches would be able to transform into animals, or some of them would have an ability to do that. So she's not sure if like that's what's happening, but she has no knowledge of magic practices from the Asian immigrants. So she doesn't know this fox is directly tied into them. She, since she's at the shores, is that when she becomes a sand witch? Boo. I felt that silence so hard. I'm glad. Uh, um, so Helene's nice. The fox gives it a bite of whatever she's eating. So the fox eats it. Say rubs up. I want to be this. Never mind. Rubs up against her, and then takes off. So finding this all. Let's scroll down. Maybe? There we go. So finding this all odd, Helene decides to follow after the fox. So at that point in San Francisco, everything was being built up. But there would still be, like, back alleys, that kind of stuff. Follows Fox through various neighborhoods and back alleys. Okay, until she finds the fox sitting, looking at Yeah, I think just looking at... Looking at a building, we will know it's... oh, I want a building, not S building. That's fine. So, unsure of why Fox is looking at the building. Goes to take a closer look. Oh, yeah, we don't need the... Unsure of why the fox is looking at the building, Helene goes to take a closer look. Where she discovers... What will she discover? She discovers the witches. In captivity. Being experimented on. So I guess the thing we need to figure out is... What in the chat did I come back to? Oh, Rad making a dad joke. And my response to it. So I have this concept of Helene, the interaction with the fox, going to see where the witches are being held. And so she has to come up with a plan to try to save them. So I've been in and out, I can't seem to sit still. Because your back always hurts, Sage. And no worries. Take care of yourself, whatever you need to do. Yes, that's exactly it. I hate Rad because he's too funny. Yes, and I am super lame because of it. Yeah, not super cool, but like I said, take care of yourself, whatever you have to do to kind of not be in pain, do that. Well, whatever you're legally allowed to do, so you're not in pain. Oh, also, Sage, I did see on Reddit today that the second phase of the K-pop Demon Hunter skins should be coming to Fortnite. They said as early as this week, I think. And there's going to be a golden jam track, another emote, the Jinyu skin, and Derp as a sidekick is what they found so far. Yeah, only legal remedies for Sage. Yeah, I'm sure Major will let you know. She's always playing the pew pews. Yeah, Major told me of a new skin pack that was in the store the other day, so I looked it up on the website and I was like, yeah, that's a pretty cool looking skin set. Uh, where was I? Oh, so we have this sequence of what Helene's doing in San Francisco. Looking for this group, Fox leads her to the building. She's gonna have to try to save the people in the building. So that can be kind of its own sequence that we can do. What I'm trying to figure out is when Margaret comes into it. Right, because we can have this, sequence of Helene saving all these witches, which, cool, but I don't know if it matters on its own in the terms of the overall story. That I think we need to have Margaret drop into the middle of it. But then timing's gonna be could be an issue. Nah, should be alright. Alright, so what we can do is, as she's searching through this neighborhood, is when she gets photographed. Rad. Yes, there's something strange happening in the neighborhood. It's witches. Ain't no ghosts here. Well, maybe there are ghosts too. Maybe. And we got another dad joke from Rad. Okay, so if we set up the photograph early enough, we follow Helene right up until she goes to rescue the witches. And that's when Margaret's going to show up. Uh, that doesn't give a lot of time for them to interact if I want Margaret to unknowingly ruin what Helene's working on. So we have to figure out some way to delay whatever plan Helene's going to do to try to rescue them. Yeah, that might work. Okay, let's try to play this out and figure out how we can delay it enough for Helene to get, for Margaret to get there. Alright, so Helene goes in, she sees the witches in captivity, they're being experimented on and guarded by hunters. Helene returns to where the fox was. She knows at this point it's no ordinary fox. That's probably tied to them in some way. I have kind of an idea. I just have to figure out how to execute it. So Helene returns to where the fox was. Um, she doesn't know what to do, though. Fox keeps looking at the building. No, Helene tells it it's not safe there. Does this track enough with Helene's perspective? Yeah, we can make it. So what I kind of see in my head is like Helene talking to this fox, but this fox just kind of sitting there, kind of like, no, the building, the people in the building. Um, but she can't communicate with it. And then we have, I'm just going to say, probably a drunk person wandering by, and uh, the fox takes control of the person and speaks to Helene. Telling her she has to help them. She responds she wants to help, but can't do it alone. Is that enough? It might be. So if we leave Helene's part of the story there, and then we jump back to Margaret, some of her memories have been taken from her, so she's at a farm. She makes her way to the city. That's where she sees the newspaper and remembers. So then she remembers, she hurries home, she starts a journey to San Francisco through train. Guessing a train ride from Chicago to San Francisco at that time was probably 2 or 3 days. Hmm, I don't know. We'll say that. Why not? It's our world. We can make the rules. We can change them. We can do whatever. It's fine. Everything's fine. Is it a magic train? No, it's a regular train. So we get her to San Francisco. She goes to where the photograph was taken, searches for Helene. So what if we get... Should we use the fox to help Margaret find Helene? Copied too much. It's fine. So possibly she's wandering around the same area. One way or the other, she's able to find Helene. Helene doesn't recognize her as Margaret. She introduces herself as possibly Maggie at this point. Okay, so here's an idea. When she shows up, we have Helene assume Margaret, Maggie, was sent by Serafina to help her. With the with the imprisoned witches. So there's kind of good and bad with trying to do this. The good is obviously we can jump over a lot of do they know each other are witches, gaining each other's trust again. But on the negative side, like, Margaret is going to lie to her. And that's something she will have to reckon with at some point. Dang it, Margaret. Yeah. We want Margaret and Helene to have a happy end, or I want them to have a happy ending, but we're gonna put them through some stuff. So we'll indent that and leave it as a maybe at this point. Because like I said, there's some things it does that it helps kind of speed things up. There's always the misunderstanding and the one runs off and the other yells, "Wait, I can explain, ah!" But then doesn't explain for like 8 more scenes. Yeah. But this isn't going to be quite that, like that rom-com trope, because the way this sequence needs to play out is that when they go to rescue the witches, yeah, everything's gonna go wrong. Because we have to split them up again. And because things went wrong, Margaret has to change her face again. But like I said, this is something that Margaret's still going to have to reckon with when she reveals at the end to Helene that this was her. Yeah, I think it can work. Okay, so if we assume that's what we're going to do, so I feel like the first thing they would do is go over, well, Helene would just go over what she knows about the situation. Yeah, that's a better way of saying it. Then there has to be a plan. We need to figure out what the plan to rescue the witch is going to be. And we have to show Lean and Maggie getting closer. So that's, establishing a new relationship. So that's that. Right, yeah, this is what we want. Yes. We want our protagonist, Maggie, to have refound what she's on her journey for, reconnecting with Helene. She goes through a process to reconnect with her, but she does it not as herself, so she has to face a consequence for that. And so, as everything here is going right for her, the her memories are returned. She remembers what she's after. She gets a lucky break that she sees Helene in the magazine. She's able to find her and gain her trust and get close to her again. And they will have to show that they have some sort of feelings for each other, but they have to go on this mission first. And with everything going good, going in Margaret's favor, we have to come in and end all that, because she didn't do it the right way. She's not being fully honest about who she is. Yeah. So we have to figure out what goes wrong and how they're forced apart. So yeah, we have Helene on a mission for the Dianic Witches. Unknowingly, Margaret ruins the plan. So we'll have to kind of figure out what this is. We probably want it to tie back in with Margaret's original sin of inaction in the face of being discovered. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about how this section plays out. Okay. But we know in the end, something has to go wrong, they have to be forced apart, and Margaret changes her face again. So then, once again, we'll have to jump ahead in time to somewhere between the 40s and 70s. Each of them has kind of pros and cons. Each decade has instances of the American government not being very good about groups or whatever that they would deem as other. Right, because we have civil rights era in this time. During the 40s, during World War II, you have Japanese internment because of Pearl Harbor, and a lot of things have been discovered recently about how popular, or rather the support for Germany in America from some during World War II. Yeah, there's a lot in there. Like I said, pros and cons with all of it, but we'll have to figure out another element or another sequence of how Helene and Margaret come to cross paths again, and how it's going to inevitably end poorly for them. And then we will jump once again ahead to present day, where we will have them cross paths again, but this time Margaret's going to learn her lesson. And we'll get to the end. So we have some outline stuff, some skeleton stuff, but I feel like as a whole, it's starting to take more of a shape. So, yeah. I think that's probably as good of a place as any to call it for tonight. And I will be back on Thursday for some more writing and trying to figure stuff out and all that fun stuff. So, yeah, we're going to call it here for tonight. Thank you everyone stopped by, hung out, lurked, chatted, all that fun stuff. I did add in the title of the stream Discord. If you're not already in the Discord, there's a link if you do the exclamation Discord. Trying to add some more stuff up there. Yeah. Latest info on stream, all the games we play, stuff we write. I did add links to both documents. So, and comments are enabled. That's as comfortable as I felt with it. So, if you think of anything you want to be part of the story or that you have a different take on or whatever, you can leave a comment on either of the documents if you want. Yeah, those are both linked up there, and I did put first 10 pages of something that I've previously written in there as well as just kind of something I've written, a writing example. That's what that is. Yeah. That's my Discord promotion for the day. Yes, solid day after day 9. Thank you, Rad, again for helping figure out the puzzle at the beginning, and Major for being amazing and letting Rad get some of the words in the words on stream puzzles. Uh, yeah, thank you everyone to stop by, and I will be back on Thursday, and I hope to see y'all then. Bye, y'all.